Hello,
Hello, Andrew.
hola. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
There
I'm
in
I'm I'm really good today. Yeah,
you're
it's
in.
really
Yeah, it's deep winter there. Yeah.
yeah, it's really beautiful. It's really white, and the snow is doing like
Ah,
this under your feet,
ah,
and it's like
like walking
yeah,
on a
this
duck.
yeah,
I
we've got
step on
lots of
ducks
ducks. Lots of
stuck in the snow. Quack 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 quack.
yeah,
Very
and
good.
you?
Yeah, we are. It's summer here. It's the middle of summer. I can't wait for summer to go. But it
Mm,
hasn't been too hot. It's been just in the mid 20s and quite fine for this week. So it's been okay. A little bit warmer today, and it will
great.
get warmer again, and then it will cool off. And we're in this, but maybe another 6 weeks to be frightened of summer, and then it should be gone.
Mm,
We will
cool.
see how it goes. Good. I have a
Nice.
topic. I have a
Yeah.
topic for
Yeah.
today. It's yeah. Thank you. And I have magnificent diagrams to show you.
I
So
cannot wait.
and a well-developed argument. So
Mm.
step-by-step logic, and this is reflected in the way I've structured the slides. Here we go with my good friends at OBS
Oh
video
yeah.
recording. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the kind of dude I've become. So can you see that? Yeah, good.
Yes,
So it's the
let me pin you. Yeah. Yeah.
pin me. Good.
Yeah.
A poetic perspective for improvisation is the kind of thing I'm talking about, or the importance of having a poetic intention. Really, I think this. So, point number A in my logic, everything starts with noticing, attention, and sensation. And these are all deeply human activities, deeply embedded in what it is to be human. To work with noticing, attention, sensation, it's not special. It's what every human being in the world does. So there's something wonderful about it being a kind of universal for what it is to be human. So that's all great. No, we love all of that. Then we get to this next section, which is um, the question is, what do we do with what we are noticing? And this is for me where the art making happens. So from what we notice, we form, uh, we look for a form that expands or develops or communicates what it is we're noticing. And human beings do this all the time as well. That's what all our language is about, really. But we do it as an artist. And so, therefore, this looking for the appropriate form, choosing the appropriate form, or finding the appropriate form, that's where the art making is in improvisation. The ability to notice or to work from sensation or to work with your attention. This is doesn't make you an artist, but choosing to work to develop those things in an artistic way is what makes you an artist. I think all artists are essentially looking for a form that communicates. I
Mm.
think that's a really profound statement. Maybe I made it up. Maybe it's not true, but at the same time, it's worth saying. It doesn't have to be. Well, anyway, there you go. So that's from A to B. Now, art making is the work of finding interesting form that communicates what has been noticed, not noticing. To do this in an artistic context gives us permission to make unusual decisions about how we form or find form. And that for me is the interesting part. Uh, I call this having a poetic perspective. So there's the way I work with all that in normal life, and then there's when you do it as an art making form, then you get permission to do that in unusual ways. And to make it sound a bit more important, instead of just saying unusual, I call it poetic. So the real essence of who you are as an artist can be found in this process. So, and the question really is, what kind of poetic choices can you access to make this happen? You know, And in broad terms, there's what I would call the dramaturgical kind of processes. I think there are choreographic processes, there are musical processes, and maybe literary processes, So there's kind of a huge range of ways of working with them. And I'm not going to, that's why I put that as a question, what choices do you have? Because there isn't a definitive list of what choices you have. But what choices you have is what determines what kind of artist you are. And I would say the more interesting your choice is, then the more interesting you will be as an artist. Sadly, this will not guarantee you a career. There are plenty of really, really very poor, interesting artists, many, many more of them than rich ones who aren't so interesting. So yeah, in summary, then what I'm talking about, there are these basic human abilities to do with noticing and sensation, and then to that we add artistic processes, and that's where art comes from, and that's our job as improvisers. We are trying to make art. So sometimes people misinterpret that they start from what they notice and then they just talk about what they notice in a very kind of ordinary way, or I would call a banal kind of just self-disclosure kind of way. Oh, I feel tired, or I feel something. And for me, that fails the kind of poetic test, And absolutely, you can have an aesthetic that is quite pedestrian, for want of a better word. And it's not you can't, but I think it's good to explore other ways before you decide that you will just do it in a pedestrian kind of normal way. And way too many people, and it's fair enough. At the beginning of your improvising, you should just go out and do it as much as you can and not be worried about this. So in the first 5 years, just do it any way you can. Don't worry about what I'm talking about. But for the next 25 years, it's really great to think about improvisation as a kind of artistic and poetic process in which you're trying to develop and use more and more interesting ways to create material. So that's the argument I'm putting here. That's the summary of the argument. We basic human abilities, and you add to that artistic processes, and that's what produces art. My project, my personal project, which I can't believe other people haven't, there aren't thousands of people agreeing with me, but it's okay. I'm old enough to be happy to be alone. But my personal thing is like to keep inquiring into improvisation for its artistic potential. How does it how does it grow and become an art form in its own right, rather than the tradition of a set of tools that gets used by people making other art forms? But to actually say, well, if improvisation is the form, then how does that become art? And to keep looking, to keep understanding that because I notice something does not make it artistic, how I proceed with the thing I notice is where the art making is. And that's the job. And I love the idea that art making is a job, that it's like that's the kind of tools you have to offer. As I said before, at the beginning, just do anything that lets you enjoy it. Don't struggle from the beginning with trying to be poetic, just use it any way you want. But if you want to stay in improvisation for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, then this poetic potential is what keeps it interesting. I could just do a little demonstration.
Yeah,
It
I
won't
want to,
be very real.
yeah,
Did
I
you
want
want
to
to ask
ask
a
you,
question?
I want to ask you how you can, what is the way how to transform it into to make it like
Yeah,
the poetic. So what is your
yeah. Well,
practice
well,
to?
yeah. Well, there are lots. Of course, there are lots of ways
Mm-hmm,
because there are lots of art forms.
mm-hmm,
But one of them is to make a decision about which way to work with it.
mm,
So there's some very simple and obvious ones that I could quickly mention. So if it's a physical sensation, then it's very easy for that to become a movement. So to work into a kind of choreographic way of working from noticing a sensation. And that's just obvious because the sensation's in the body. Every time you move, it creates sensation. So you notice sensation, then you work with that sensation. It's very easy to create movement in
mm-hmm,
that kind of way.
mm-hmm,
But another way is to let that sensation, and of course we know that sensation, if we know it's there, it's because it's traveled to the brain. and we can just let it sit in the brain as a stimulus to the brain. And the
Mm.
brain wants to respond to that, and it can respond directly. So I could, if I do this and I go like that, then one way would be to directly go, I bent my elbow.
Mm-hmm.
So I think about what has happened and then I describe what has happened. So that's treating it just as a kind of description of the physical thing I've noticed. There's that whole way of doing it. And then there's that whole thing about like that and that sensation of something closing. And then I let that go into my imagination and I go, I heard her purse close, the hard click, that purse into which money went in, but it never came out,
Mm.
just from that. And it's still quite literal because I'm kind of working at the sense of things closing. And so it's gone into my imagination in that kind of
Mm-hmm.
way. But there's also just moving and not trying to form any idea, but just it's a bit like cooking, just kind of turning the temperature up, just letting these sensations build and see what pops into my brain. So I'm not worried about what's literal or what's the logic of it. So if I move, I hear autumn coming. I hear autumn falling. I hear autumn rustling. So I'm not trying to make any conscious, I'm just letting the stimulation of how I'm moving. And it started with this. That's when I kind of felt the rustling, and that's when I let that become autumn, and I followed that material through. So there are literally thousands of ways you can do that, and that's what the work of improvising is, developing more and more ways.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's this kind of funneled, highly technical kind of work, and then there's relaxed, let it happen kind of work. The relaxed, let it happen kind of work basically will work through the things you already know. So when you have 5 or 6 different ways of working, then you can let them just all work. But if you want more or if you want new ones, then usually you do have to kind of give them some attention for them to start happening and to work technically on something new for a little while to find it.
Mm.
There you go. That's
Right.
I could do another little demonstration. How long is that? You must know how long we've gone.
Oh, yes, I.
Oh, no idea.
Yes, I
I've got
don't.
no idea either. Oh, I've got no idea. So maybe we'll stop there and I hope we've done a short one for once. Then we won't get into
I
trouble from
think
the
3 minutes
editors.
demonstration is okay.
Yeah, I've heard those words before. You think I'm susceptible to your flattery. Ha! A 3-minute demonstration. I will do a 3-minute demonstration.
Do you want me
It's
take
my
time?
idea.
Do you want me take time?
Yes, please take the time for me. Yeah.
Okay, go.
Ah. Oh. Ev- Everything is a long way away. Everything is a long time ago. Everything is long overdue. Everything is waiting to happen again. Everything is slowing down. Everything is stuck in the mud. Everything is rolling slightly backwards. Everything is waiting to come running. Everything, always. It's my favorite generalization. Everything. as if I could imagine everything. Mainly, I'm imagining one thing at a time. Not the setting sun. I don't need to imagine that the sun is setting. Not the wooden walls. I don't need to imagine that the walls are made of wood. I find that an overgeneralization is an easy and comfortable way to keep the world under control. Because everything is really chaos. It's not waiting, it's rushing, it's spinning, it's turning. Everything is out of
5.
control. Bang.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's okay. Meaning, yeah, love a bit of meaning. Where's my microphone? There it is. Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, that was that. It was good. I started desperately trying to demonstrate my talk, and in the end, I just thought I might just do a little solo because it should be working. Something should be
Mm.
happening. So whether anyone can read anything about what I talked about and what I just did, but for me, it's very clear that these things are coming, and I have choices about how to present them, if you like, or how to be with them,
Mm.
and therefore. So for me, it's like that, noticing things come, and then what will I do with it? How will I share it? From as simple as how close to the camera do I talk? Do I not talk? All that kind of very simple kind of thing. When does it change? When do I need to change it? Because I think that's a poetic permission to allow yourself to radically shift from one way of working to another one for no apparent reason, for no kind of necessary reason, but to actually choose to do that. I think that's a sign of interesting art making for me because it indicates a kind of poetic of texture, how you put different textures of experiencing together. So yeah, I don't know what a good demo, but I had a lovely time in the solo. It was great because it's like I start with everything and I do different versions of everything, and then I go, now it's a cliche. Now do I believe this cliche, or have I just said it because I needed to say something? And that was great to kind of create something and then question it. So at this point, up until then, I'm not really working with my kind of rational intellect. And then at a certain point, when I've got some material, and I kind of love the texture of that because it's kind of seemed like it might be important or serious in some way, and I go, no, I don't think everything's slowing down. I think it's actually fairly obviously going the other way. So to actually kind of it to become its own piece of research, it starts to ask. I start to ask questions of it, and then I can play with that. So yeah, that's that.
I think there's a time, and also my neighbors just don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
stop
Are renovating.
drilling.
They are renovating, or have
Yeah,
they taken up the tango? Are they starting to tango early in the morning?
yeah, this is
Is that
true.
how
We
it
that
works?
this is what we
Yeah,
do in the morning.
yeah.
You just
Nothing but tango in Poland.